Welcome to Hoystory on Air, Season 1, Episode 21. I have a long show for you today, but I've kind of broken it up into segments. So for those of you who don't want to watch however long this is going to be, and it's probably going to be long, wait a couple hours after you get the email on Substack or you see the alert on YouTube, and I will be chopping this into pieces, uploading it so you can watch little bits to your heart's content. It's an interesting day. So the New York Times ran an article over the weekend on the Biden immigration disaster. This follows a pattern of doing journalism when it doesn't matter anymore. A lot of this could have probably been written 2022, 2023, ongoing type of, analysis. This is one and the same with, Jake Tapper's book about Biden was not really there. Senile old guy, only can handle maybe 6 hours a day, needs lots of naps, is easily confused. That was safe to publish after the election. Before the election, it was cheap fakes. If you cut and paste, make our guy look bad, that's a cheap fake. That probably should have been Word of the Year in Propaganda Today magazine. Anyways, how Biden ignored warnings and lost Americans' faith in immigration. Biden probably did more to destroy even people like me I'm kind of pro-legal immigration. But when you do it so haphazardly as he had done it, I start to look more skeptical of the entire enterprise, especially when you look at, situations like, the Somali community in Minnesota, which apparently the article, I think I went over this a few episodes ago. The article one of these articles quoted a Somali American professor at a college up there saying, well, cheating the government is part of Somali culture. Defrauding the government, that's part of Somali culture. Well, if we can't assimilate that out of you, then we can't have you here in the first place. But this is Biden ignoring warnings on immigration. A New York Times examination of Mr. Biden's record found that he and his closest advisors repeatedly rebuffed recommendations that could have addressed the border crisis faster and eased what became a potent issue for Mr. Trump. Not really news, but now it can be told. Now that it doesn't matter so much. At least doesn't affect Biden so much. Once Biden was president-elect, his positions threatened to drastically increase border crossings. Expert advising his transition team warned in a Zoom briefing in the final weeks of 2020. So this is a month before he takes office. They offered a range of options to avert that crisis by better deterring migrants. Mr. Biden seemed to grasp the risk, but you can never tell. The warnings came true and then some. After Mr. Biden became president, migrant encounters at the southern border quickly doubled, then kept rising. New arrivals overwhelmed border stations, then border towns, and this is what started to make it apparent to everyone, eventually major cities like New York and Denver. But only because of what Republicans did to bring attention to it. First, they underestimated the scale of migration that was coming. Second, they failed to appreciate the political reaction to that migration. And here is where there is a disconnect between the activist left in the Democratic Party, and all parties have this problem to a greater or lesser extent. Democrats have a bigger problem with it because their media, and the media they consume, tend to absolutely ignore it. But they believe that stronger enforcement would alienate Latino and progressive voters, and also that a border surge would not be important to most voters. Those calculations would later prove to be mistaken, with many voters, including Latinos, citing immigration as a reason for supporting Mr. Trump in 2024. Your activist base, the ones you're talking to all the time, the ones who head organizations, will tell you one thing. That's not always, and in fact maybe seldom, what the rank and file feel. I know a lot of Latinos who do not believe that more immigration is a good thing, even from countries they came from generations ago. Ones that come here legally certain don't think the people who come here illegally, that's, hunky-dory because, similar last names or same skin tone or something like that. Especially the ones who came here legally, there's a lot of resentment for people who came here illegally. And again, don't make no mistake, this sort of illegal immigration pushes down wages. It has that effect, just basic economics. So it shouldn't have come as a surprise. It shouldn't have, but it did. So they try and get comment from Biden. They would not make him available for an interview, but provided a statement that blamed Republicans for blocking additional funding for hiring more border agents. If we want to play this game again, who had control of the House and the Senate when Biden was elected? It wasn't the Republicans. Statement also blamed Republicans for walking away from a proposed border bill because Donald Trump told them to. Well, yeah, because that was going to give Biden cover, and they mentioned this later in the article, but when it became clear Congress wouldn't act, Biden took decisive action on his own. Why did he wait 3+ years, nearly 4 years? Why? Because he didn't care. This wasn't, especially the first couple of years, this was, you right-wing media, Fox News down there on the border, with drone footage showing thousands of people camping out right on the border waiting to be processed into the country. Get the CBP1 app, They didn't think it was a real issue. The Biden White House had no strategy because they had no goal, said Scott Schuchart, who joined the administration in 2022 as a senior advisor at Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. All they had was wishing the problem would go away so they could focus on the things they cared about. Part of the job of president is dealing with crises. And they didn't want to. First, they didn't see it as crisis. Second, they didn't care. Congratulations. You reap what you sow. Once in office, Mr. Biden had to decide between the more permissive approach the Democrats demanded and the warnings from some policy advisors to tack to the center. He wasted no time answering. He issued a 100-day pause on deportations, narrowed the categories of unauthorized immigrants targeted for arrest, stopped building the border wall, suspended Remain in Mexico, and, here's the key, he sent draft legislation to Congress to create a citizenship pathway for people in the country illegally. I'm not a big adherent to this great replacement theory, in as much as it addresses kind of birth rates. But the way Biden treated the border certainly lends credence to the belief that they didn't like the way the electorate was going, so they would like to import a new electorate and change. And the way they did it, letting in so many people and gotaways and cutting down on who they're exporting, certainly lends credence to that. Trying to change the facts on the ground. So, Mr. Biden's policy changes, some of which were halted by the courts, were not the only causes of that early surge. The draw of the U.S. economy, which bounced back quickly from COVID, mattered too. But the crisis foretold by Mr. Biden's border advisors quickly emerged. And here's what you look. Remain in Mexico policy, and then there's a little border. These are Border Patrol encounters at the southwest border. And you look and you compare Trump to Biden, and wow, these are month by month. That's absolutely crazy. But that's what we got. 2 months into his term, Mr. Biden assigned Vice President Kamala Harris with reducing illegal migration, especially from Central America, by working on the root causes. Republicans labeled Ms. Harris the president's border czar. But none of the former officials who spoke at the time described her as a central decision maker on border policy. Spokeswoman for Ms. Harris did not respond to requests for comment. Shouldn't be surprised. Should not be surprised. They play this game. Oh, she's not border czar. Blah blah blah. Okay, she's not border czar, but she is reducing illegal migration czar. Like, can we get that? Harris appointed root causes czar, and what effect did that have on illegal migrants illegally coming across the border? Doesn't look like it had any effect. Didn't make it better. May have made it worse. I mean, we're still protecting her. It's. And I say we. The mainstream. They still want to protect her. She's a victim in all this. She didn't have any say. He wanted her to do this, but no effect. No effect. And then, how did it start? How did the Democrats start to feel the pinch? April 2022, Governor Abbott of Texas sends up a bus full of migrants to the Capitol and continues doing that. The busing campaign had been under consideration since the previous summer when local officials met with Mr. Abbott in the small border town of Del Rio. Small border town of Del Rio. I can still remember some of the pictures of Del Rio. And talk about inundated. This is a tiny town, it's on the border, but that's where everyone's coming across. The Biden administration accused Mr. Abbott of a cruel stunt. Oh my gosh! Bringing illegal migrants who the Biden administration refuses to deport. Oh, they're asylum seekers. No, most of them aren't. 99% of them aren't really asylum seekers. Having a better life in the U.S. than Guatemala or Bolivia or whatnot is not a reason for seeking asylum. It's not a reason to get let in the country. Because if that were the case, we'd have to take everybody. That's the point. Many Biden officials came to the view of Mr. Abbott's campaign as the point Democrats lost the debate. Well, yeah. This is troubling. The CHNV program, admitting migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, provided they could find an American sponsor, pass a background check, and pay for the plane ticket. Come right on in. So now these ones aren't illegal, but they're kind of indistinguishable from all the ones walking across the border illegally. Republicans accuse the administration of letting in unauthorized immigrants. Well, they're certainly playing the game with the immigration rules. And no one at the Department of Homeland Security was responsible for ensuring that people who entered through CHNV left the country when they were supposed to. Again, pathway to citizenship. We'd like a whole bunch of illegal aliens in a whole bunch of states to feel indebted, morally or whatnot, to the Democratic Party for letting them in. Great replacement theory or not, this is... You can see why a lot of Americans, including Latinos, will be ticked at this. Because, you don't like the way we vote, so hey, we'll bring in different voters. We're not going to change our views. We're not going to argue our views and try and convince you of the righteousness of our views. No, we'll get some people who feel that they owe us. Adding to the pressure, Mr. Abbott expanded his busing campaign. In May, Denver received its first busload from Texas. And there's Denver's mayor, former high school principal. I would generally not recommend high school principals for political office, but there you go. Texas sent more than 19,000 migrants to Denver. The city of 720,000 ended up taking 43,000 of them. Do the math on that. That's 6-7% of your population is now illegal migrants. The influx became a crisis for Mr. Johnson, who was elected mayor 3 weeks after the first bus arrived. As the numbers grew, he repeatedly asked the Biden administration for money and policy changes to address what he called a humanitarian crisis. Yeah. And this problem that Johnston here is complaining about in Denver was 10, 20, 30, 100 times worse in Texas. Not so sympathetic. But hey, people who have a D after their name hopefully have Democrats kind of, looking after them now, listening to them. Hey, we're having problems here on the local level. And then there was this bill that they wanted passed, and Biden can't do anything, without you passing this bill. He's handcuffed. By June, 55% of Americans said total immigration levels should fall, highest share measured by Gallup since just after the September 11th attacks. And then, 5 months before Election Day, Mr. Biden reversed course. He issues an order all but closing the border to asylum applications, a move that was far tougher than the proposals that had been rejected during his first year in office. Border encounters quickly fell. So we played this pretend world that Democrats and the media created for 3 years. He can't do anything about this. This is just the way it is. And then 5 months before Election Day, Trump's numbers are looking good. People are concerned about the border and all the illegal immigrants. And maybe I can do something. Shocker. Anybody call him out as a liar? No, not really. On Trump's first day back in the White House, he effectively blocked asylum claims entirely, shut down the Border Entry Act, ordered the military to the border, and directed ICE to drastically expand its scope of arrests and deportations. The American people deserve a federal government that puts their interests first. The Biden experiment was over. A very different kind of experiment was just beginning. And I'll say this again. I said this Saturday. If you want to kind of see the video, check out my bad Facebook memes clip that's on YouTube. I think a bit of it's also on Substack. The whole thing may be on Substack. I have to go back and check. I'm not sure. But you have these arrests are happening because Biden wouldn't do it. Now, is Trump going over the line sometimes? I think the ICE and the Border Patrol sometimes go over the line on some of this stuff. The Facebook memes case was this situation with this woman who was driving her car registered to her boyfriend, who was an illegal alien. She gets pulled over, refuses to identify herself. So they don't know who she is. And you get pulled over, you refuse to identify yourself, you're going to get hauled out until they can identify you. Just show them the dang license. Problem solved. But I'll say this again. I think there are cases where all cops, because I watch the Civil Rights Lawyer channel, go over the line with how they behave and how they treat people. We should highlight those. Those people should be held accountable. There should be some way to identify them and sue them individually. And I'm not a big fan of qualified immunity because it doesn't seem right that we've got all these police officers who take courses in the academy and are constantly told about, hey, these are what people's civil rights are, and then they ignore it. The civil rights lawyer put out a video yesterday, I think, of this guy who did the smart thing. Cops came to his house. He's like, do you have a warrant? They don't have a warrant. We don't need a warrant to talk with you, sir. Leave my property or I'm going to sue you. The guy's denied a consensual encounter. At that point, without a warrant, police are trespassing. They need to leave, and he has every right to sue them. They came back the next day, and it's clear on their own body cams that he said sue. They came back the next day with a warrant from the judge because they told the judge he said shoot. They lied on an affidavit before a judge to get the warrant. Do they deserve qualified immunity? Hell no. I don't see why they shouldn't be in jail themselves for perjury. So, when you got a case like that, go after them. Make it hurt. Make the politicians be willing to stand up for good cops and not stand up for bad cops. Getting back to Biden. It's James Sirwicki. He's a leftist. Good piece on why Biden's immigration policy went so awry. The question I always found impossible to answer is, what was Biden's endgame when it came to immigration? The article makes it clear there was no endgame, just muddling along with no plan. No, the article doesn't even answer that question, what was the endgame? It doesn't try to answer that question. Because as Fusilli Spock, good guy to follow on Twitter, has a lot of good takes, says the game plan was to flood the country with illegal aliens, exacerbating the crisis, making it too difficult to fix. The ultimate goal was to force the GOP to concede to amnesty that these new legal immigrants would then create a permanent Democratic majority. Yeah, they won't say that, but read between the lines. That's certainly what it looks like. I mean, the first part of the article said that, Biden wanted to find a way for a path to citizenship for these people. Reagan, way back in the 80s, said, okay, but we stopped the illegal immigration, and he was suckered. Tip O'Neill, Democrats absolutely suckered him. And it's 40 years later, same thing's happening. It's, we should not be surprised. Next story. Here we go. It's out. The report you've all been waiting for. Giffords has put out their new 2025 gun law scorecard. Their experts analyzed and graded all 50 states on the strength of their gun laws. And like always, the data is clear. Gun laws save lives. No, they don't. They don't. Here's the rankings. California, we're number 1. Please ignore the Stockton shooting from last week. Please ignore the 3 children and 1 adult killed there. Please ignore all the gang violence. California, number 1. Most improved, Colorado. Again, a lot of these gun laws, if the Supreme Court can get off its tush and start, doing the Second Amendment law it needs to do and reining in some of these state and federal courts, there's going to be a lot fewer gun laws. And guess what? That's not going to affect the crime rates. These gun laws do not affect the crime rates. They don't. Guy on Twitter, MLGT Gamecock, Alex Said, or Alex said one. I don't know what his real name is, but this is him. 15 minutes of Excel and a few brain cells to rub together tells us that there is zero correlation between total murder rates and their gun law rankings. Hell, the trend line is, there is no trend since the R2 is so low, or R squared is so low. Trends downward as the Giffords rankings get worse. I don't condone his expletive here, but again, now here's where his numbers and the numbers Giffords use deviate. He is using murder rate, okay? 2024 murder rate versus the rankings. And as you go, the Giffords ranking is 1, so California is there on the left, it's number 1, and its total murder rate is 8 point something, and then you get down here to 50th, and it's 2 point something. It's just kind of do the line on that. It's up, down, 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 up, across, then way down, then up, and then down, and then up. It's and again, this is murders. Giffords numbers, it does gun violence, which includes suicides and accidents. Well, the 12 gun laws passed by Colorado don't really do squat for suicides or accidents. They don't. That's not bringing those numbers down. Safest state, Hawaii. Hawaii's a nice place. Not a lot of suicides. Deadliest states, Mississippi. Well, that's, again, and the thing is, if you took the numbers and you took out suicides and you took out gang-related violence, which, frankly, the Stockton shooting last week would be counted under, then the United States' gun laws are not, murder rates, gun violence, murder rates are not that different than those in Europe. They're not. But we play this game with gun violence so we can goose the numbers. It doesn't happen. This is an article I wrote way back, kind of in response to before Bruin came out, which Bruin was the Supreme Court case that basically said the Constitution says you have the right to keep and bear arms, which means you've got to be able to carry them. And so states like California and New York and New Jersey and Hawaii, who have these laws where you've got to prove to us you really need to carry a gun. No, not anymore. If they want to, you can do your background checks and stuff. You can issue them a permit, but you can't have somebody using their feels on whether they get a permit or not. You have to issue it. So this is something I wrote, and this was in regard to again, these numbers are a decade old. They have not substantially changed as far as rankings go. So, and this was a St. Louis Post-Dispatch article predicting doom and gloom, predicting blood in the streets should the Supreme Court say you've got a right to carry, which hasn't happened. We may have the lowest murder rate in the United States in the last 30 or 40 years this year. And Bruin exists. You can't arbitrarily prevent someone from carrying. So this was a 2018 St. Louis Post-Dispatch. If you go into the show notes, you can read this article. But it referenced this 2016 USA Today analysis. It says and I created a spreadsheet with all these numbers. On the spreadsheet, if you sort by the overall violent crime rate provided by USA Today, it becomes rather apparent that a state's restrictive may-issue policies tend to have little correlation to reductions in firearms homicides, and more to whether the state has large cities that have a lot of gang violence. California, for example, was 8th lowest for gun violence rate, includes suicides and accidents, but 15th in overall violent crime. Other restrictive may-issue states, Maryland and Delaware, rank even higher for overall violent crime at 11th and 9th respectively. Second Amendment advocates often point out that restrictive may-issue concealed carry regimes only really have the effect of disarming the law-abiding. Criminals don't apply for permits to carry firearms. So why does the Post-Dispatch editorial board cite numbers that lump together homicides and suicides, call it gun violence, and then associate it with differing carry permit regimes? Because if you're honest about the numbers, it becomes clear there is no causation, and even the facile correlation disappears. Chart on the right, firearm homicide rates, calculated by yours truly in large part, are on the far column. Note the constitutional carry states versus the may issue states. The other states listed there were shall issue states, where it's basically if you applied and you didn't have any disqualifying felonies or anything, you got it. Since then, it should be noted that both South Dakota and North Dakota are constitutional carry states now. They got completely rid of their permitting schemes. So there's the numbers. Look forward to seeing the next report card to come out, probably from every town. Again, that's when you look at these gun violence rates, remember, a big chunk of them, better than, I want to say, half of the gun violence is suicide. And that's tragic. It's something we should work on. California has these red flag laws. Oh, we'll take away your guns. Do we send you, for someone who gets their guns taken away, do we also go to the court and send them to be for psychiatric counseling or analysis or screening? No. Do we take their car away so they won't mow down people? No. It's a kabuki theater. We're just going through the motions. There's no real there. So, something to remember. Next story. This is a big one. It's California's an absolute mess. And I'm going to hit on a few things, different things, but this is all basically prompted by this bit of garbage last week. Last Friday? It's Thursday or Friday. In January, real Donald Trump looked me in the eye on the tarmac. And here's the thing. When this photo was taken, like back in January, he arrived to LA area to kind of tour the aftermath of this Pacific Palisades fire and the Eaton fire and all those. Newsom wasn't invited. Newsom showed up on the tarmac in order to get this picture. That's the only reason he's there. He wanted to get this picture so he could use it to run for higher office. In January, real Donald Trump looked me in the eye on the tarmac, promising Angelenos that he'd help rebuild after the firestorms. 11 months later, he still hasn't delivered. That's why I'm headed to D.C. to push for long overdue federal aid package for survivors. You created this, Governor Newsom. You and Democrats and whatnot, who've chosen to spend money on high-speed rail rather than making sure that the Santa Ynez Reservoir that's supposed to have a bunch of water in it to battle fires in the Pacific Palisades area is full. And it wasn't full because it hadn't been full for over a year, or for nearly a year, because the tarp covering it was broken. Wasn't a priority. What has been a priority? Spending $250 million on gerrymandering. I think this is a New York Post screenshot. Yeah, this is what they want. This is what they get. So this is from a few months ago. This is EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. New York, you missed out. He would have made a great governor. But let's check out what he has to say about all of this.
Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom need to get off of their asses and allow all of the people in Los Angeles to rebuild their freaking homes and their businesses. Okay, you have people who are suffering extreme amount of frustration, anger, and pain because of whatever type of bureaucratic red tape, delays, and incompetency is resulting in the local and state leadership preventing people from building what is theirs. They lost everything. They lost their homes, they lost their businesses, and now they just sit there and wait, and they don't even know when it's going to end. It is incompetency. And for these people who live there, who lost everything, the most important thing that you can give them is to instantly allow them to rebuild their lives. And you're denying them right now. This mayor and this governor out in California are denying the residents of Los Angeles the most basic need when you lose everything in a home fire, the ability to rebuild what is your dream, what is your family. Now, there are people who have decided that they're gone, they're leaving, they're never going to look back. They're done with California. But you have a whole lot of people who are in Los Angeles. When I visited the week after confirmation, I was going to people's homes where they had contractors at their property right then and there. Let's talk about the first week of February of 2025. They have contractors at their site to be able to rebuild their home and to be able to forget what just happened, leave it in the past so that they can move forward. And those people are still sitting there with contractors waiting for approvals from an incompetent mayor and an incompetent governor. And the rhetoric that we hear from Governor Newsom, where he's saying that President Trump is somehow the reason the federal government, we have completed everything. There's nothing left waiting for EPA sign off. There's nothing else waiting on us. There's nothing else waiting for Army Corps of Engineers. So I know that it's very important for everyone tuning in from Los Angeles. We have certainly heard your voice. We've heard your passion. We've heard your frustration. We've heard your anger. And we stand with you. The Trump administration, President Trump, we've heard it from him directly. We stand with all of the residents of Los Angeles who want to be able to rebuild, and they're just waiting for permission from their incompetent leadership who are denying them the right to rebuild.
Yeah. So Zeldin also responded to Newsom's tweet, X-post, whatever you want to call it. The EPA completed its historic Phase 1 hazardous material removal in record time, under 30 days. The Army Corps then fully completed its Phase 2 debris removal. The federal government under President Trump has completed all the necessary steps to allow California's families and businesses to rebuild. The holdup is entirely, totally, completely waiting on California's local state politicians to allow residents to rebuild. I won't go into government. I won't. Nobody's going to be thanking Trump for anything on this. Again, this is a state or local issue. This is not Trump's bad. Trump, they've done everything they can. This is Gavin Newsom preening. That's what this is. He wants higher office. And further evidence. This is from last week. Take a listen.
Yeah, very emotional. This decision could mean the difference between tens of thousands of dollars and whether or not they decide to rebuild or move on. And tonight, they're still waiting.
Somebody pays it. It's going to be the taxpayer.
The LA City Council again delaying a decision on what.
Sorry about that. Let's try this again.
Yeah, very emotional. This decision could mean the difference between tens of thousands of dollars and whether or not they decide to rebuild or move on. And tonight, they're still waiting.
Somebody pays it. It's going to be the taxpayer.
The LA City Council again delaying a decision on what reconstruction fees to waive in Pacific Palisades, with dozens of fire victims in City Hall watching in tears.
Sobbing, actually. It was so devastating to see how incompetent our city is.
January's Palisades fire left roughly 7,000 buildings in ashes. In April, the mayor called for a hold on reconstruction fees, but now, almost 11 months after the flames, the city council still hasn't made a decision.
They want to nitpick and penny pinch people who have gone through the worst, most devastating wildfire in our history.
Both reports will have a major fiscal impact.
Council members now weighing two possible plans, one costing the city an estimated $86 million, waiving fees for single-family home rebuilds.
Commitments were made.
And Councilmember Tracy Park's roughly $280 million proposal, a full waiver for homes, businesses, and apartments.
Maybe it'll be enough to convince an apartment owner to rebuild.
We don't get to magically waive it. We can only pay it.
They think that we're asking for handouts, but we pay taxes. You should be coming here and helping us.
Fire victims caught in the middle of a city budget crisis with their lives in the balance.
The more friction that they put up against this town for rebuilding, the harder it makes everybody.
Now waiting almost a year for a decision on fees and if they can afford to rebuild.
We did not ask for this fire. We just want to rebuild. We're not looking for anything fancy. We're looking for the city to stand up and do their part.
So now this goes to another budget committee meeting before it goes back to the LA City Council for a vote. No word when that could take place. Reporting live tonight, Matthew Seedorf, Fox 11 News.
The city council, again, these are your local politicians, are the problem. They're the ones who are not, we're not sure we're going to waive these. Yes, the mayor promised. You didn't see her in that. She's not there railing against the city council saying, look, you need to do this. We've promised this is the right thing to do. Waive those fees. Well, maybe we only waive it for single family homes. Maybe we don't waive it for apartments. Well, that's a guarantee you're not going to get as many apartments. Businesses, oh no, so you allow the businesses to rebuild, you're not going to get sales tax revenue from any of them because they ain't open. This is all, it's very short-sighted, but it's par for the course. A couple weeks ago, they were touting this. Nearly a year after Pacific Palisades burned, there's a new house. Yay! Great, we got a new house. Picture of the front on the left. You can see the neighborhood it's in. Yeah, that bodes well. They sure know which house to rob, right? There looks like there's a few places. It looks like there may be apartments over there under construction. Who knows what else? Some of these may just, I don't know. But lots of empty lots. And that house, frankly, is going to need more solar. They should have put more solar panels on that. Since they got to put them on anyways, you might as well have sufficient number. It looks like there's plenty of roof space. But that's just me. The new house is at 915 Kagawa Street in Los Angeles, Pacific Palisades neighborhood. Quartz countertops, open floor plan, pool and a fire pit. Yes. It is the first rebuilt home in the Palisades to receive a certificate of occupancy. But the home won't actually be occupied soon. It's a showpiece for the developer. It's the first one. We are here in December. And I think this article came out or they announced it in late November. Late November, 10 months, 1 January to 11, 10 months, one building, one house has been approved for occupancy. But there's a story they're not telling you. What aren't they telling you? This is I miss it. I may have put these things out of order. Oh, yes, here we go. Thomas James Homes bought the property 2 months before the fire for $3.4 million and was planning a tear down. They already had a permit to destroy it. The fire just maybe saved him a little money on the tear down. That permit was issued before the fire. This is not proof of them cutting red tape. I'll go back to this. This is a bit from an article I got from the Hoover Institution. Rebuilding proceeding. 7,000 structures were destroyed or damaged. several hundred in Malibu. In the Palisades, there are 1,143 rebuilding permits. In Malibu, only 17. Okay, these are the latest numbers. We've got some more permits issued, but note that number that I've highlighted below. They've issued 1,196 permits for 594 unique addresses. Should be obvious. You need more than one permit for your address. Sad, but apparently true. That's cutting down all the extra permits, making one big one, obviously isn't some of the cutting of red tape they've done. But there you go. It's maybe some of you will start voting for Republicans. I don't know. Maybe we're too toxic here in California, but this is what you get. You get blaming Washington, and frankly, it's all on Democrats. There was a study a few months ago. I think I commented about it on Twitter. That the concert they did for fire victims. All the Hollywood types did this big concert, raised all this money for fire victims. You know how much money fire victims actually got from that concert? Not a sausage. Not a penny. It went to non-governmental organizations, charities and whatnot, for their programs. How much went to people who are, had to buy a trailer or something, or had to, they're still probably having to pay their mortgages on a home that's been destroyed, but they need to live someplace, and so they've been getting help with motels or something like that. Nope. It's all for show. The problem is state and local. This starts out a little silly, this next segment. We're going to start out a little silly, then we're going to get a little more serious. The silly is our governor. This is him at a New York Times Dealbook Summit complaining about wealth inequality, which is a bit rich, coming from a guy whose entire career has been funded by the Gettys, the oil barons. He's a friend of the family. His dad was their lawyer. He's an example of the problem he is complaining about. Come as no surprise, they usually are. Take a listen.
Have a party that I think needs to design and develop a compelling economic vision for the future where people feel included, to reconcile the fact that if we don't democratize our economy, we're not going to save democracy. And I don't think it's healthy that we have 10% of people that own 2/3 the wealth in this country. I don't think it's sustainable practice. The folks watching Mr. Beast, disproportionately 30-year-olds, the first generation in history not doing better than their parents. There's some underlying issues here that have to be addressed. We have an economy that is broken for too many people.
And frankly, it's your fault. There was a lot of outrage that Tesla had constructed this deal to pay Elon Musk $1 trillion salary or whatnot, should he reach certain milestones in growing the company. I don't begrudge Elon Musk his money. Frankly, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect Gavin Newsom in as much as, Elon's moved the company headquarters to Texas because Gavin Newsom was trying to, screw him here for more money. But it's the $1 trillion for Musk. Frankly, if he meets those milestones, he probably deserves it. I'm not sure they're attainable. I think, if I recall correctly, he has to increase the market value of Tesla to $8.25 trillion, and it's like at 1 now. So he has to increase that by 8-fold. He has to have a couple million self-driving taxis in major metropolitan areas, which I think is a good thing. My parents are getting to the age, and my parents have friends, who are in these assisted living facilities, and they spend a lot of money on Ubers because they can't drive anymore. If they want to get around, it's an Uber. And those aren't always safe. You've heard cases of those. So if, Musk's self-driving cars or taxis or whatnot, go for it. Great if he can do that. Again, creating value for shareholders. Buy some Tesla stock. I think the last thing was he had to have like between 200,000 and 300,000 fully autonomous humanoid robots. Maybe my concerns there are Terminator level concerns, Skynet, those old Terminator movies. But Musk has made things better. The Starlink, I remember when, my wife and I were looking at buying a house in a community a few years back that did not get cable internet. Phone company internet was going to be super slow. We were looking at it if we bought this place, and it was kind of set in a canyon. It was, nice area, nice view, but it was in a canyon, and having to, if we wanted the wireless internet that they have, where you put a thing on your roof, it's great in the Central Valley, which is mostly flat, but we were going to have to find a way to erect like a 100-foot tall pole to stick the thing on top of so we could get it pointed to one of those stations. Starlink has made it so that just about nowhere in the United States do you have, is there a reason why you can't have high-speed internet? And that's a good thing. The other disturbing thing about this video, let me kind of go back here. I don't want to really play it, but I want to this. This is disturbing to a lot of people because a lot of men can't sit that way. They have body parts in the way. I have never sat that way. Gavin Newsom can, which made stupid things on the internet. People pointed this out. This is not a way that men typically sit. And his idiot press office, made up of, I'm not sure if they're millennials or Gen Zers or whatnot, thought this was a good idea to make an AI image of this, him doing this. Now, again, if you think the problem with the original pose was that our governor lacks cojones, this particular pose kind of reinforces that. You don't want to look too closely, but they think they're clever, and it's just like watching a train crash over and over again. Hoover Institution put this out. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. Another year of bad governance in California. This is by Lee Ohanian. Hoover Institution, again, is at Stanford University. It's conservative. It's the only conservative thing on that campus. But LA is $1 billion 8-mile bike lane. Los Angeles, yes, spent. Again, rewind a bit. They're debating on whether waiving fees to rebuild Pacific Palisades and the other surrounding areas, whether they should take a $80 million hit on their budget for what the fees would normally be. Again, they're talking about an $80 million hit. And yeah, they've got to do some work. But the only reason they're looking even at that number is because everything burned down. And frankly, it burned down because you guys weren't doing your jobs. The news coming out recently is that the Palisades fire was whipped up because they pulled firefighters from a previous fire, monitoring a previous fire site that was smoldering. I'm like, oh no, it'll be fine. And then boom, this happens. So they're talking about 80 million if you exempt single-family homes from the permits, and 280 million if it's everything that burned down. So single-family homes, condos, apartments, businesses, whatever. And they spent $1 billion for 8 miles of bike and a walking path 16 to 20 feet wide, using a half-cent sales and tax increase that's going on 30 years. He points out $1 billion could potentially fix many miles of LA roads or fund bus-only lanes and signal priority in the highest ridership locations where buses wreak havoc on traffic. Or you wouldn't be worrying about fees for permits. You voted for it, you've got it good and hard, haven't you? Aging water storage and conveyance waits to get repaired. The state has identified 42 dams in need of repairs for safety purposes. Because they need repairs for safety purposes, it means you can't store as much water in them. In this case, more than 100 billion gallons. They had a dam repair budget, 100 million. They cut it in half last year. Again, why'd they cut it in half? Well, because probably DEI crap, but there's tons of stuff that's wasted here. It's an absolute joke. The last systemic review of deferred maintenance on state infrastructure identified upgrades totaling $70 billion, but that was 6 years ago. So we got problems. This is California, and these aren't the only problems we got. I give you Rep. Kevin Kiley speaking on the floor of the House. This is great. This is great. Oh boy, we are so dang stupid.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to present some truly bewildering and completely unacceptable news out of my state, the state of California. I have been very critical of government performance in our state, with giving taxpayers the services that they are paying for. And this latest example makes that point very, very clearly. For the last 6 or so years, Californians have been paying an extra fee on their phone service. This was due to legislation enacted by the legislature and signed into law by the governor. So all of these fees were collected for the purpose of creating a next generation 911 system, which honestly is something that we need. The system is quite outdated and antiquated and not up to the task of serving the many different kinds of emergencies that we get in California. So for the last 6 years, these extra fees paid for by California taxpayers, which are in addition to the state budget itself going up over 50% during that time period, these fees were used to build out this new 911 system. The state spent $450 million building out this 911 system. Well, just last week, it was announced that after spending all of this money, the state is scrapping the entire project because the technology does not work. It is absolutely beyond belief. The $450 million that Californians have been paying on their phone bill was absolutely, completely squandered, wasted by the state which not only wasted all of that money, but has now left Californians with an inadequate 911 system because they need to start over from square A. This, Mr. Speaker, is an example of how the failures in Sacramento that have degraded the quality of life for people throughout our state are not a matter of Democrat versus Republican, but simply a matter of competence, of basic government performance, of serving the people of our state, as opposed to serving other agendas. So I hope that this latest debacle will be a wake-up call to demand the sort of accountability that our taxpayers are entitled to in California, and for the way the government in Sacramento is run to be completely revisited, to be reoriented in a way that is based on performance, that is based on competence, that draws upon the best practices of the private sector, and that ultimately is geared towards citizen service rather than the other interests and agendas that too often prevail at our Capitol.
I could probably do a better Horseshack impression. I mean, I don't. Dream on, dude. He's right. $450 million. Instead of creating a unified statewide network, tried a regionalized model, which divided the state into four sectors, each to be managed by different providers. There's a problem. Turned out to be a significant error. Duh. When the state began turning on the new system in a few pilot dispatch centers, several problems emerged, including dropped calls, misrouted calls sent to the wrong dispatch center or jurisdiction, and multi-hour outages. Last month, they abandoned the new system, acknowledging the rollout was unworkable. And creating another new system from the ground up will possibly require hundreds of millions more dollars. We're spending $1 billion on a railroad to nowhere. High-speed rail, not going to happen. That's part. It was another part of this report. If you again click in the link dump, you can read it. They talk about the high-speed rail. I've talked about that before. It's a joke. It's not going to happen. But we're spending $1 billion on that each year for the next 20 years. They taxed us specifically to fix this 911 system. Didn't work. Probably ought to see if he can get Elon to do it, because Elon would get it to work, frankly. But we don't like Elon. He's a bad guy. So the fact that he can get the job done, I don't know. It's distressing. Another issue. Will refinery closures lead to $8 per gallon gasoline? A friend of mine from high school, played clarinet in high school. We were in the band together. He was a year ahead of me. Was traveling down here to California, I think for a business type thing, but showed some pictures of places he went, which is what I like Facebook for. I want to see where you're going, what restaurants you're stopping at, because, hey, maybe, I'd want to stop at them too if they're good. And when he got back into Colorado, he posted a clip. Now I'm back in Colorado where gas prices are reasonable. And I last paid here in the Central Valley. The cheapest place in town is $3.99 a gallon for regular unleaded. He took a picture of what he was paying in Colorado at the gas station he stopped at. $1.99 a gallon for regular unleaded. Yeah, I'll take that every day of the week and twice on Thursday. California gas prices are 50% higher than the national average. California uses specially formulated gasolines that produce fewer carbon emissions. Nearly all this gasoline is refined in California, but we've lost 35% of our refining capacity since the early 80s. Losses reduce supply and raise prices. And we have the highest gas tax in the country. Study on a USC predicts California gas prices could rise to as much as $8 per gallon over the next 3 years. That would make things interesting. That really would. That would require, if gas prices got to $8 a gallon in the in California, and it's $2 a gallon across the border in Arizona and Nevada and Oregon, then I suspect that either Democrats will get run out of this state on a rail, or they will suddenly discover that they care a little bit about affordability and about the poor in this state, rather than this fake climate crisis that's never going to come. Newsom says it's price gouging, but they created a division of petroleum market oversight, and its first report found no convincing evidence of price gouging. Moreover, the report acknowledged that some refiners are only marginally profitable because of the high cost of doing business in California. Key reason why refiners have been closing over time is because of high operating costs, including regulatory costs, and because of the incentives offered by the state to produce biofuels instead of refined oil. So now he's trying to put a deal to keep refineries open. This is the same. It's like reality finally meeting you head on like a freight train, which used diesel. He's doing this with oil refineries. They did it because of concern with the electrical grid. They were going to shut down all nuclear in California. They shut down San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, or as I like to call it as I drive by it, the Dolly Parton Memorial Nuclear Generating Station, even though she's still alive. And they were going to shut down Diablo Canyon. They are not anymore. You've got the predictable anti-nuclear and environmentalists, gnashing their teeth over that one. But if California starts doing the brownouts again, that's going to submarine Newsom's shot at the presidency, which is what he's concerned about. Last little wrap up. We got some fun stuff here. We got some interesting stuff here. First story on this one. So I mentioned the Blaze Media, who had named a former Capitol Hill police officer as the pipe bomber, the January 5th pipe bomber, I call it, because that's when he planted them. They've arrested somebody who's not that former Capitol police officer, and after consultation with their lawyers, they've retracted the story. Smart thing to do. You're still going to get sued. You're probably just not going to pay as much. So, good call there. Steve Bonnell, whom the Washington Post identified as the attorney for the Capitol police officer, told the Post his client categorically denies that she planted the pipe bombs. Note the other thing here is they don't name her anymore. So, I will never. Gate analysis. Seriously, guys, you base the whole thing a gate analysis. Maybe you should like never use those sources again, because they are they cost you a lot of. They're going to cost you a lot of money. Saw this on the internet. Coming soon on Netflix, The Queen of Coal. A trans woman dreams of working the coal mines, but in a town steeped in superstition and patriarchy, Carlita must fight to earn her place underground. This is real, ladies and gentlemen. You see the little N up in the corner. I thought this was a Netflix film. It's not clear that this is a Netflix film. This is the biographical drama. Spanish-Argentine co-production. I'm sorry, you can tell that this is the mentally ill twofer. Because first you have a man who thinks he's a woman, which mental illness, and then you have someone who wants to work in a coal mine. Nobody wants to work in a coal mine. It's a necessary thing, but, oh, I dream of working in a coal mine. She dreams of working in a coal mine. He dreams of working. No one dreams of working in a coal mine. Some people are saying cancel Netflix over this. I don't want to. Tell you what, if I get 100 people, which I'm not, but hey, it would be nice, subscribing to my Substack, paid subscribers, I will watch this and do clips and kind of I can't do a live stream of it, I don't think. I think I'd get in trouble. But I'll watch it, get clips, and report back to you. But 100 people, subscribers to my Substack. That's what it's going to take. Some of you are sadists. You can go ahead and do it. Finally, we have this clip. This is from the Bill Maher's Club Random podcast. He is interviewing Anna Kasparian, who is a progressive, or was a progressive for a long time now. She says she's this independent centrist political person. But she made her name on the Young Turks, which is extreme left-wing network. Shows very, 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 very progressive, and also anti-Semitic. And this just, I watch this, and this is just, it's so stereotypical of many on the left that I just have to share it with you, because it's that bad.
If you had to live in the Middle East, so tomorrow, Anna, you got to go live in the Middle East, where would you live? You can pick one city, any city. You can, as far away as, say, Pakistan. You could live in Karachi. You could live in Cairo. You could live in Amman, Jordan. You seem to love Lebanon. I mean, Beirut's nice when the bombing's not happening and the assassinations have stopped. Or you could live in Syria. I hear that's wonderful in the summer.
Well, we now have a Al-Qaeda terrorist leading Syria.
Or the Houthis, I'm sure, would make room for you.
Yeah.
Tel Aviv, or the West Bank, Ramallah, I think is wonderful for like a little, in the fall, it gets lovely. Where would you live? What city would you live in?
Well,
where do you think you'd be comfortable in that dress?
I'm sure it would not be comfortable in this dress in any of the various Middle Eastern countries that have been destabilized by
You're not really blaming it on Whitey.
Listen.
Are you? You're blaming Islam on Whitey?
I'm not blaming Islam on Whitey.
But what you're saying is we destabilized. That's why you can't wear that dress.
Did we not destabilize?
Wait a second.
We were funding terrorist organizations in Syria during the Syrian Civil War, starting under the Obama administration.
That's why
did that not destabilize Syria?
No, what's destabilized?
There's a literal Al-Qaeda terrorist.
We're talking about your dress.
Oh, why? It looks good. I know it looks good.
You're saying you can't wear that dress in Syria because of Whitey destabilizing?
I didn't say that.
Okay, that's what it said. Okay, great.
But the United States did destabilize various Middle Eastern countries. Are you going to deny that?
I asked about the dress, and you went right to destabilize. So is that why you couldn't wear that dress? Why couldn't you wear that dress? Why couldn't you walk down?
You want me to talk about jihadism and Islam, but like...
Why won't you?
Listen...
Why won't you?
I mean,
Why?
I don't believe in jihadism, which is why I'm furious that the United States just had a freaking Al-Qaeda terrorist in the White House.
It's not just jihadism that is preventing you from wearing that dress. Are you saying every Muslim is a jihad? I don't think they are.
Bill.
Okay, why can't you wear that dress?
Let's focus for a second.
No, you won't answer this question.
Yeah, that's... I don't know about yeah, it's Whitey's fault. This is she does not want to criticize Islam because she would get probably raped then killed in just about any Middle Eastern country wearing that dress legally. It'd be legal for them to do it. Nobody'd be serving any prison time. Well, that may be the case in the UK too, depending on who did it. It says something about the UK. But that's where they go. They you can't criticize Islam. You can't go there, especially if you're this whole LGBT Palestine alliance thing is insane. I don't know. Let me just say again, thank you for joining me today. Appreciate you watching. Tell your friends. If you want me to watch that Queen of Coal Netflix special, pony up. I will do it. I will do it. It will be extensive. Won't be I don't think I can re-air it in one window while I react to the whole thing. But maybe I'll do that just live and then it'll disappear. I'll set up a time or something. But please tell your friends, subscribe. Hoystory.substack.com, YouTube/Hoystory. Again, if you wanna, this should be like an embarrassment thing. It's like high schools do this thing where if you put money in a pot for the FFA based on different teachers, then they have to kiss a pig or something. This is the similar thing for Substack. If you put money in the pot and you subscribe to my channel on Substack, then I will do the internet equivalent of kissing a pig, and I will watch Queen of Coal about a trans dude who says he's a woman who dreams of working in a coal mine. I'll do it for you. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. Again, please tell your friends, and have a wonderful day.